Are you a student here?
Yes, sir, I am.
Graduation's coming up. You're going to be graduating?
No, I'm a freshman currently, so I still have a few years out.
All right. And what are you studying?
I'm double majoring in botany and Spanish.
Botany.
Yes, sir.
Spanish. Okay, so we can talk science then.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Tell me, would you accept the theory of evolution? Is that something that you accept to be true and factual?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
What do you consider to be, so I really enjoy talking with students, I really do. So what do you consider to be the best empirical evidence in favor of evolution?
I think you can look at a lot of genetic stuff, like we can see how different, I'm like into plants and stuff, so you can see how over time plants, like the same type of plant can change into various forms, and how if like one genetic thing gets messed up, it'll turn into a whole new species, and you can kind of track the lines in the DNA of, oh, this used to be this and this used to be this. So just looking into how plants and animals today aren't what they looked like 100 years ago, aren't what they looked like 1,000 years ago, aren't what they looked like a long, long time ago, and we have like fossil evidence and records like that.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, do you have any religious background at all?
Yes, sir. I grew up in the Lutheran Church.
Okay, in a Lutheran church. Are you from the area,
Yes.
or are you out of the state?
Yes, sir. I'm close to Milwaukee.
Boy, you think I'm pretty old, don't you? You like to call me sir. Okay.
I'm just respectful. I mean, yeah, we had a religious ed in 7th grade I went through, and how they explained it is that, like, the first 7 days of the Bible, since there was no light or anything like that, it might not be the same like 7 days we're used to right now. Right now, like empirical time, it's like a 24-hour clock, world going around, you know. But in a Bible, it's more of a story, so it doesn't necessarily need to line up with those 7 days. So you can say, oh, God created light, did this in a week. Maybe it wasn't a week. Maybe it was among millions and millions of years, and our story brings it down into a week, and that could explain evolution.
Do you remember hearing about kinds of animals?
Like in the Bible? I mean, yeah, like Noah's Ark, we learned about that sort of stuff, but I don't, yeah.
Okay. So, this is interesting just to find out where, what your background is, what you understand. So you were talking about, partly the fossil evidence, partly the issue of the fact that plants and animals do change. Mm-hmm. But from a biblical point of view, so I have a more literal view of the biblical story of Genesis, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so in Genesis, actually in chapter 1, it also talks about that God created these various kinds of animals. And on the 6th day, he created the large animals as well as humans. Okay. But kinds are, from a biblical perspective, they're more in the area of family.
Yes,
so
sir.
it's not the same as species exactly. So from our point of view, God created these animals specially with the DNA, with enough DNA for flexibility, for animals to change. And so when it comes to, let's say, dogs, there's a dog kind, right? And you can go all the way back to the wolf. They can be naturally selected, they can be artificially selected, because at least from our point of view, God created dogs, just as he created cattle, he created cats. All of these are different kinds of animals. And so you cannot select for features that's not already built into that particular kind. So, we're just having a conversation here. It's just, just kind of share a little bit. So my question is what is the best evidence in favor of evolution empirically? And actually, I should have started off just asking about how would you describe the scientific method?
The scientific method in general? Well, you have to start by asking a question, look at the evidence, try to do research, and try to look for the evidence, like you're solving and answering a question that you have, and you can see whether what you're doing by experiments will answer that question or if it's against the question, and you'll find evidence based on that. And it has to be repeatable evidence. It has to be evidence that multiple people, not just yourself, can create. And just looking at the world around you and seeing, does this make sense with what we know is true?
Very good answer. And so when I'm talking about empirical evidence, that's the kind of evidence that I'm talking about. So many of the various things that people use to support evolution can also support creation. So the fossil record is interpreted. It can easily support creation. We were just talking about the flexibility of the dog kind or cats or those things. Okay, you can see that there's some how it fits evolution, but it also fits creation. So I'm very interested in what about the evidence that's exclusive to either creation or for evolution. And so not only am I looking for, I mean, if you're going to convince me as a creationist that evolution is true, you need to be able to come up with evidence that's exclusive to evolution. My point of view is that for creation, there is a whole variety, at least a dozen, maybe 24 empirical sources of evidence that support creation exclusively to where it does not support. You really have to stretch it in order to fit evolution. Can I give you one?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about dinosaurs.
Okay, cool.
Okay, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, I like T-Rexes. I think their little arms are really funny.
Yes, very, very good. And with the T-Rex, have you ever heard of the discovery of soft tissue found in dinosaur fossils?
Not that I know of. I mean, dinosaurs aren't my strong suit, but yeah.
Most people I talk to, like maybe 1 in 100, have heard about this. I mean, unless you're actually into paleontology or geology, you don't hear about it. Yep. And yet, I consider it to be one of the most important discoveries, in the last 20 years. So what happened was in 2000, there was a T-Rex that was excavated in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana. And in the process of removing this particular femur, it was so big and so heavy with a helicopter, they split it open.
Oh, wow.
And then they took certain pieces of the femur and they sent it to Mary Schweitzer. She's a microbiologist, I guess. And in the process with her and the other people that she works with, they had found these soft tissues. They dissolved the various elements that they had received, and sure enough, here they find blood cells and stretchy blood vessels. We're producing a documentary right now. It's just about to come out, and it's on dinosaurs. But this is this has been known. It was published in Science Journal in 2005.
Okay.
You're familiar with Science Journal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so it's a major publication, right? Also, 5 years later, it was then, she was interviewed, Mary Schweitzer was interviewed on 60 Minutes. It was literally published around the world. It was even in China. Yeah, and still, people don't know about it today. Why do you suppose the general public doesn't know about something that's so significant when it comes to dinosaur research?
I mean, trying to think. For me, that was a long time ago. 2005 was the year I was born. So I was very young when that happened. But even though it's so important within the world of dinosaurs aren't something, you're taught to it very basic on an education, middle school, high school level, but unless you're into paleontology, unless you're into these very specific things, you're not going to know about it. Just like I probably know, just from taking a few botany courses, I probably know a lot more about botany than the general public does, and things that are very important to me or within the botany field are very niche to the outside public. So if the general public isn't very educated on this, it doesn't seem very interesting or very large to the general public that'll stick in their heads.
All right, I have a different view.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I believe that the public doesn't know about it because soft tissue and the other issues surrounding this does not support the evolutionary theory. It counters the evolutionary theory. That's exactly what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yes, sir.
What is evidence that actually exclusively points to creation versus versus evidence that exclusively points to evolution.
Okay.
This is a piece of evidence that exclusively points to creation, that God created those dinosaurs along with humans, along with all the other animals and fish and various sort of things. Since 2005 and since 2010, and it became big news, the creation scientists who believe in creation and God, they've been doing work in the same area. So, for example, I was involved in producing some filming for an excavation. I wasn't there for the original excavation, but we did the filming afterwards for a Triceratops horn.
Okay.
And they were specifically looking for soft tissue in this horn, and sure enough, not only was the horn only like a foot down from the top, and it's in Montana, which is very cold in the winter and very hot in the summer. But it was just a little piece that was sticking out, and then they dug it out, and they had this huge horn. I mean, this Triceratops horn was absolutely beautiful and huge. But anyway, they took it to their lab, and under microscopy, they found soft tissue, and then published in a journal called a secular journal called Acta Histochemica.
Okay.
So all of that I can point that to you. I have an article that I'd like to leave with you so that you can kind of get an idea that this has been out in the world, and you can do a search on the internet. Anybody can find dinosaur soft tissue. You can research Mary Schweitzer, any of these things, and so it's a fascinating thing. One other thing I wanted to point out is that it's fascinating that since the creation scientists have been doing this, they've also been doing some carbon dating of these materials, and the carbon dates are always in the thousands of years.
Interesting.
So when it comes to people who are promoting evolution, they refuse to carbon date. They simply say, well, there can't be any carbon in there. But here we're finding there's specimens. Now it's over 100 papers on a variety. There's dinosaur fossils. There's various other marine fossils that have been in layers that are dated as late as 500 million years. And they're still finding soft tissue. So all of this is in our documentary.
Very nice.
So
One
do you see
question,
how...
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
How does finding soft tissue counteract evolution theory?
Very, very important question. Very good. Yes. Yeah, it's the fact that biomolecules, we know scientifically, biomolecules just don't last. If you have a deer out on the side of the road, that deer, unless it's buried, it will get scavenged, and the various animals take it away. And while bones may last, they will not get fossilized unless they're actually buried.
Yes.
So the whole issue of, well, here we have dinosaur material that's soft, that's in layers dated to like 68 million years, 70 million years, and yet those are the layers that are dated. They're dated to those years. But when it comes to like carbon dating, or when it comes to just simply knowing about what happens to what happens to biomolecules, they deteriorate very rapidly.
Oh, okay. So like these soft tissues weren't found, they weren't preserved in any special way? Or I know like if it's beneath ice, for example, or if it's under layers of peat moss, things that shouldn't be preserved are preserved. And we can see, like there's an example down in Argentina of,
there's a man, there's the ice man too.
There's like children that were found, and they're perfectly preserved, and you can go to like a museum and see them, and they're like perfectly preserved. They have their clothes, you can see their face, all of that sort of stuff.
And the Egyptians, they have their mummies. But no, this is in the Hell Creek Formation, and this was just in rock. It was just buried in rock. And it's fascinating. I was there again last year, doing a lot of filming. And every year what happens is, it rains and various precipitation, and it washes down these sediments. And then every year they find new specimens. They're always, these dinosaur hunters are always looking for the good stuff, right? But no, it was just buried in the mountainside.
Interesting. Very interesting. So do you believe that dinosaurs weren't extinct as long as like as scientists have said they've been, or and they've been around a lot longer than that?
Yes. In fact, so first of all, I would say that Noah included dinosaurs, not necessarily every species, but every kind of dinosaur on the ark, all right? And then they did proliferate after the flood. And we have today, and this is also in our documentary, there in the Bible, in Job chapter 40 and 41, look it up. You've got a Bible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the middle of Job chapter 40 is a description of a sauropod, sauropod type dinosaur with a large tail like a cedar, swings like a cedar, this sort of thing. In 41, the entire chapter is a description of a dragon-like creature that even throws out fire. The description is totally amazing, and that it's got this armor, and that you can throw spears at it and they're just going to bounce off. It's really a cool description. That's Job chapter 41.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there are pictures. There's pictographs there's a pictograph of a sauropod dinosaur. There's a mastodon. Okay. In the same, not the same rocks, but within 100 miles away. There's pictures around the world. There's tapestries. There's this guy that was buried, and they have this brass that goes around it, and they have these pictures of sauropods, these two necks that are together. It's crazy. I mean, there's pictures of dinosaurs around the world. There's pottery. There's tapestries. It's too much to just simply say it's a coincidence or something like that. So there's a lot of evidence that humans and dinosaurs live together.
Very interesting. I mean, I'd have to definitely do more research. I'm not convinced by this one conversation, but
no, I completely.
It's an interesting theory. It's an interesting idea. Personally, I believe that. I mean, stories come from somewhere. You know what I mean? And you can see cultures all over have histories of dinosaur or like stories of dragons and fairies and things like that. So
you cannot deny the soft tissue, and you cannot deny. Well, you don't know yet. I mean, I'm just telling you. It's just one source, but I'm also talking about the carbon dating. I mean, these are very, very powerful sources. One of the things that I find to be so fascinating is that the museums, how we were talking about, why is it the public doesn't know about it? This is startling information. And when it first came out, the paleontologists were up in arms. This is a really big story, and yet it is still not in the museums today. The various museums that hold dinosaurs, the most prominent museums around the world, and they still don't talk. Not a word about dinosaur soft tissue. Thank you very much. Let's close it down. Let me give you a couple of things. Yeah. Okay.